Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I have some fun rainbow llama themed cards for you guys today. I pulled out the Honeybee Stamps No Probllama stamp set that was released some time ago. I have literally had it sitting in the front of my container of Honeybee products for months, and was doing some organizing the other day and pulled it out and was like, I need to create with this because it's just adorable. This llama, just, I don't know, the expression on the face, everything. I just love it. So I stamped it with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. I'm stamping it onto some Ranger Distress watercolor paper onto the smooth side and stamping it more than once because I wasn't inking it up properly the first time. And then once it's stamped, I'm going to add clear embossing powder and heat emboss this. You don't need to heat emboss when watercoloring with, I'm going to use the Arteza water brush pens, but I just like adding the clear embossing powder because it gives that little bit of a raised edge. So then I don't have to worry about things, bleeding into each other. And I also like the glossiness that the clear embossing powder gives. It gets that little extra something, but it is not necessary. So I heat embossed everything. And then, like I said, I used the Arteza real brush pens. And with these, and generally with almost any type of a water brush pen like this, a watercolor pen, markers, etc. I find, for me anyway, the easiest way to use them is to work in small areas. I remember when I got my first set, I think it was like the distress markers. I think that was my first experience with watercolor markers. And I remember struggling so much, and the color, wouldn't move and that sort of a thing. But I think it was because I would color the entire image, with a marker and then go in and try and move the color around. And by that point, it had already soaked into the paper, had started to dry, and then it just didn't want to reactivate as well as I'd wanted it to. So with something this, and especially when working with large images, I just add a little bit of marker, pull out the color with the water, go on to the next, little area. And then if you want, you can go back and add, another layer of color or a different color completely, add some layers, really get some depth going. I didn't do that with these well, I will on the cactus. But with everything else, I just kept everything kind of one layer and simple. I just wanted to, add some color. So I did just a gray for this llama and then did a really bright pink for his ears because why not? And then decided to go rainbow with all his little accessories because I want to use honeybees over the rainbow pattern papers. So I was definitely in a rainbow theme. So started with the sunglasses, which I did in pink. I was thinking those pink ombre. I have been wanting those for so long. Total random side note. Yeah, there's some really gorgeous, I think they're the Ray-Ban or whatever aviators that are a pink ombre. Oh, they're so pretty. Every once in a while they pop up, in online feeds, and I'm like, ooh, I don't think I can pull them off, but they're pretty. So I gave the llama them. He looks cuter in them than I would anyway. So did that, and then for the little hat and the blanket, I am just going in and doing kind of rainbow order. Just picking out random markers. I didn't write down which markers I used. I have the big Arteza, the 96 set that I still haven't swatched. Still need to do that. But I was just grabbing random colors. In between all the images I did, I don't even think I used the same markers half the time. I was just grabbing them. So did most of the, did kind of everything at once like I usually do. I did the little pink areas, I did the orange, the yellow, the green. When I got to the green, did the whole cactus with that. And then finished off the little sombrero and the little blanket with blue and then some purple. Added a bit of pink. And then I kind of took another look at the cactus and I was like, it's a large image. I wanted to add a little bit more color to it, a little bit more depth. So I just grabbed a darker green marker and just added that and mixed them together. And it just kind of gave it that little extra something. So just kind of scribbled it on, moved it around with water, and it's good to go. So I made sure to let everything completely dry before I start taping down the coordinating wafer dies. Because if it's at all wet when you run, you run the risk of it just tearing when it's die cutting. And it also, if it's still wet when, you tape down the dies, when it runs through the machine and the dies get pressed and the washi tape gets pressed into the cardstock, if it hasn't dried fully, it's going to tear. So I let everything dry, taped all the coordinating dies into place, die cut everything, and then off camera I actually colored more llamas, whole bunch more. I got a whole bunch of cacti going on here, all the little accessories and everything. So I watercolored everything, die cut everything, and then very, I don't know, gingerly in a sense, pulled out some of the rainbow patterns from the Over the Rainbow 6x6 paper pack. I love these papers. They're so pretty. And it was kind of hard to cut these down, but I told myself, like, use them. I can always get more. So trim down 3 of the rainbow, like actual rainbow papers from the pack to just slightly smaller than A2 sized. I think these ended up being like 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, something like that. So just trim them all down with my paper trimmer. And then I'd also die cut some white cardstock with one of the double stitched polygons wafer dies. And I had grabbed just random white cardstock from my stash when I die cut those polygons. And when I go to blend the ink on them, I found that the ink, like, there were just some weird spots on the cardstock. So I don't know if it shows very well on camera, but in the end, it didn't really bother me. I noticed that, and it was another thing I need to do, is to like label, all my white cardstock so I don't mix things up, because the good quality stuff, the Nina Classic Crest, etc., always behaves the way it's supposed to, but like some of the random ones I have in my stash that I don't know where they came from, they don't work very well. But anyway, I adhered the pattern paper first to my card bases. I just used my little Xyron Mega Runner here, applied some adhesive, and then stuck these onto heavyweight white cardstock card bases. And these are all A2 cards, top folding A2 cards. Once I got those adhered, then I'm going to grab these die cut polygons, and I'm going to blend some tumbled glass Distress Oxide ink over them with a blending brush. And again, like the marks that just were showing up, I wasn't overly concerned with, because I'm going to, build my little scenes over this. I just wanted that little bit of color kind of peeking out in between them. So I just blended on the color starting in the center with one of these blending brushes. And then I always clean these brushes off just on a microfiber cloth. I don't ever wash them, haven't ever needed to. I find if I rub them really well on a microfiber cloth, they're good to go. So blended on that Oxide ink onto these die cut pieces, and then I'm going to build my little scenes with the cactus and the llama and all the llama's little accessories, just having a grand old time. So figured out how I wanted to kind of lay them out, and between the 3 I ended up like slightly altering the layouts and whatnot just for the fun of it. And I'm just going to adhere everything into place with some craft tacky glue, just adhering them directly to my little polygon blended die cut. And then I'm going to adhere my llama, and then I can start dressing them up with a little blanket. The one I did the sombrero on, the other 2 I decided to just leave off, so the sunglasses were a little more obvious, because I don't know, I just get a kick out of that. Like a llama and sunglasses, just who would not smile getting a card like this? So adhered everything into place, gave him his little sunglasses, gave this one his little sombrero. And then I also have a bunch of the little flower in the set. I had stamped and colored and die cut that multiple times as well, so that I could add them to all these different cacti I have on my scenes. So there's little dabs of the craft tacky glue to adhere those into place. And then I repeat this process 2 more times so that I have all my little llama scenes for all of my cards. And then for the sentiments, I'm going to use sentiments from the Probllama stamp set. And there is a die cut for this, for the Ola word. There's the die cut for the word, and then there's an outline, but there's also a stamp. And while I was making the cards, I was like, just thinking about, the whole rainbow theme. And I haven't done this in years and years. Like this used to be a thing like 15 years ago when I first started stamping. I took a baby wipe, folded it up a few times, and then I am adding just 3 different colors of Distress Oxide ink. You can use a ton of different types of reinkers. I just like how Oxide ink, of all the reinkers I have, this one stamps kind of the best for something like this. But I applied mustard seed, candied apple, and mermaid lagoon to this baby wipe. And then while inking at my stamp, I'm very lightly tapping it and moving it back and forth, just very, very lightly. And that kind of, blends those colors together a little bit. and then stamping it onto my cardstock. Now you can get empty Distress Oxide ink pads from Ranger. You can get that, and you can add your reinkers that way and make your own, you know, multicolor ink pad. I didn't do that. I actually have one in my stash. I didn't want to do that though, because it just, I'm always wanting to do different colors, different things, etc. But if you have a big project you want to do, or a color combo that you use all the time, that'd be really cool to just add the reinkers to that. But I just used the baby wipe, and I got all those stampings out of it. I also stamped the little, I'm going to stamp the llama word. I'd stamped that multiple times as well by inking it up. And yeah, and then I can just clean it up and I'm good to go. So I die cut those with the coordinating dies. And then I applied foam tape to the back of my little llama scenes here. I'm just going to peel off the backing of the foam tape and then pop these onto my card fronts. And then once I've got these in place, the Ola word, I'm going to just add foam tape to the one side, craft tacky glue to the other, so I can adhere that into place. And then once that's in place, I can start finishing the insides of my cards. So I have my llama word, and then I just built a sentiment from stamps in the No Probllama set, which I've said a million times. It's one of my favorite things about Honeybee is there's so many options with so many other sets to just build your own sentiments, build your own phrases, like just so many options. Like, it's nuts. So I just built sending you a llama love. So I just built that onto the inside of my cards. I stamped part of it with the Nocturne ink, and then adhered the little llama word that I had stamped and die cut. And once I get those adhered into place, that's going to finish off these cards. So as always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll have a supply list with links to all the supplies I use, so you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for subscribing, for thumbs upping, for commenting. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.